Ladies and gentlemen, you already know who it is. It is Saya Alpha, and I am here with the AEW House of the Dragon review. So, as you all know, for the people who did see it, it was the August 17th, 2022 edition of AEW Dynamite. It wasn't a long show as there were literally 4 matches on the card. So we're gonna start off with one of the least good matches there, since it was technically a squash match. So we're gonna go and talk about that one real quick. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the first. It wasn't the first. It wasn't well the first. Gosh, it wasn't the first match, but it was a match that not everybody wanted to see. Tony Storm, who remind you is the #1 contender for Thunder Rosa's AEW Women's Championship, faced against a debuting Kylan King. This match, I would say, went for about 4 or 5 minutes, as technically Tony Storm squashed her for literally like most of the match. Kylan King did get her licks though, but she definitely lost to the #1 contender. Next we're gonna talk about another match that was technically a squash match. I don't even think this match went past 2 minutes. I don't think there were any commercial breaks during this match. Of course, I'm talking about the Gun Club versus the Varsity Blondes. Now, as you all know, the Gun Club is Austin and Colton Gunn alongside their father, Billy Gunn. Now, this match was kind of a squash match. This match was a squash match, actually. I don't even think the Varsity Blondes got a punch in on the freaking Gun Club. But yeah, the Gun Club won to move on and to move on higher. Well, not higher, but move on in the Trios Championship tournament. And then, after they won, Billy Gunn, the father of Austin and Colton Gunn, celebrated with them, hugged them, told them how much he loved them and how much he was proud of them and how much the tough love really meant. But then Stokely Hathaway, as you all know, FKA Malcolm Bivens from Diamond Mine, walked out and he smiled, and freaking, what do you know, Austin and Colton Gunn attacked their father and stomp him out until, you already know what time it is, the Acclaim come out, and then they help Billy Gunn. And then, what do you know, Billy Gunn, freaking Max Caster, and freaking David do the freaking scissors thing. And what next? That also means, by the way, that, well, no, we probably won't get a new freaking team into the Trios Championship tournament, since it's already starting. But this obviously means we're getting an Acclaimed and Gun Club rivalry, since the dumpster match they had wasn't quite that good. I don't even think it went to like 10 minutes. It was basically the Gun Club just destroying the Acclaim until the Acclaim surprisingly got the gun Club in the dumpster, and then freaking pushed the dumpster off the stage with them in it. And then we're going to talk about the match that literally, well, no, that's not time yet. We're going to talk about one of the best matches on this show. Well, how about we talk about the best match on the show? Because I'm not going to say the last thing I'm going to talk about was the best match, because it wasn't, but it was the best thing on the show. So we're going to talk about Bryan Danielson, aka Daniel Bryan from the WWE, versus Daniel Garcia. So they had a best 2 out of 3 falls match, and it was probably the most greatest 2 out of 3 falls match I ever seen, besides Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. They were just destroying each other until freaking Daniel Garcia got the upper hand by just stomping Bryan Danielson out until he put the Dragon Sleeper on, causing all that blood to rush in, and Bryan Danielson passed out, which means Daniel Garcia got the first fall. But then, out of nowhere, I'm not gonna say it was immediately after that because it wasn't. Probably a little short time after that, Bryan Danielson rolled up Daniel Garcia with a surprise roll up and got the second fall. So it was already 1-1 at this time. They went on for, I'd say, another 15 minutes before Bryan Danielson hooked the label lock while Daniel Garcia got free the first time. The second label lock, Daniel Garcia was no match for it, as he was forced. I forgot if he tapped out or passed out, because you can pass out from the label lock. But what I'm basically trying to say is Daniel Garcia lost the match and Bryan Danielson won the match 2-1. And then I'm not done with this, because after the match was officially over, Bryan Danielson saw Daniel Garcia literally just head blown, like he was dazed, and then he was looking like he was confused, and then he got the crowd to clap for Daniel Garcia, and then he extended his hand, and then Daniel Garcia was thinking about it, but before he did it, freaking Chris Jericho, as you all know, Daniel Garcia is in the Jericho Appreciation Society. Chris Jericho attacked Bryan Danielson and told Daniel Garcia to make the better choice, which Daniel Garcia wanted to freaking stay and help Bryan Danielson, but instead he had to leave the ring and follow Chris Jericho, which we would know later on in the show he did not follow Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho wants to see Daniel Garcia next week meet face to face, one-on-one, not a match since they're currently in the same faction, but he wants to talk things out, which means Daniel Garcia did things on his own after he left the ring, which means Daniel Garcia might be joining the Blackpool Combat Club, but I'm thinking before that we're gonna see Garcia versus Jericho. Okay, now I've kept y'all waiting for quite a long time. It is time to get to the thing that everybody was talking about after it happened. It wasn't the best match on the show, it was the best thing on the show. Next, we're going to talk about the Young Bucks and their mystery partner versus Andrade El Idolo, Rush, and Dragon Lee, the team of La Faction Ingornable. So, it says here, Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks have been looking for a partner to compete in the AEW Trios World Championship Tournament. However, Hangman Adam Page, who they were about to become the Hung Bucks, denied their offer. Now, a mystery partner will align himself with the former tag team champions to take on the team of La Faction Ingornable, and then Dragon Lee, which is the thing. Who will be this mystery partner? Now, before I read this to you, I'm just gonna say the person had a long introduction. It says, "Will Kenny Omega make his return?" Now, let's just say this. So, before I continue on, they gave the announcer some paper and gave this man a long intro. And yes, it was the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega against LaFashion and Grenoble. And yes, the match was not the greatest match, but the match was good. Kenny Omega was rusty after he wanted to hit one of his, not signature moves, but one of the moves that made him famous, but he slipped up before he did, and they laughed it off. He's obviously rusty. Nobody's going to be mad about it. He's been out of action for 11 months, so I don't want to hear it. But everybody did pop when he hit the one-winged angel and V-trigger. Kenny Omega was obviously not at 100%. I do feel like every time he grabbed his stomach, he was selling. So I don't think he actually was hurt. But I do think he was not hurt. I don't think he was hurt from his actual injuries. I think he was hurt after that spot he took. So, Ingranable, I'm just going to call him that because it literally sounds better than LaFashion, set him up on the barricade, which you all know is metal, and they held him so Dragon Lee could run and hit a suicida into him, causing him to land hard on the ground, which is basically what happened. That's when the crowd began to say, "Holy shit, holy shit." Yeah, we had like tons of those chants tonight for 2 matches though, since the rest of them were literally squash matches. But like, man, that match was good. Kenny Omega obviously got the pin to win the match as he hit a V-trigger, a running V-trigger, and then a one-winged angel to pin Dragon Lee of Ingranable while the Young Bucks held El Idolo and Roosh so they couldn't stop the pin. As the Elite, aka Omega, and the Jacksons, the Young Bucks, as they were on the ramp, freaking Roosh and Andrade helped Roosh up to his feet after he took the one-winged angel. And what do you know? Roosh, aka Dragon Lee's brother, pushes Dragon Lee into El Idolo, aka Andrade, and Andrade hits the Hammerlock DDT, which means freaking LaFashion and Grenoble just turned on Dragon Lee. Let me remind you, they wouldn't even be in the Trios tournament if Dragon Lee didn't accept to be their freaking partner. Without Dragon Lee, they wouldn't even be in the tournament. They're lucky they even got in the tournament. Yeah, so we might see a personal feud between LaFashion, Ingranable, and Dragon Lee. I'm low-key thinking a solo one with Andrade and Dragon Lee and Roos not knowing how to pick a side. Because he's literally Dragon Lee's brother. But Roosh is currently the partner and acquaintance of... Wait. Yeah, he's literally... I didn't forget anything. I had to check something. He's literally the acquaintance of Andrade. So we could probably... What if we have a Dragon Lee versus Andrade winner gets Roosh match? I don't think that's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen, but still, it's bound to happen. Back inside the ring, Mick gets a hockey stick broken over his back, but he shakes it off and he applies the mandible claw. That's basically all that happened yesterday. It is official, the AEW World Championship will be unified next week on Dynamite instead of All Out. It was already confirmed CM Punk and Jon Moxley will be unifying those AEW World Championships next week on Dynamite, which means after next week we will have our first ever undisputed AEW World Champion. We already have an undisputed TNT champion, which is Wardlow. It was the first ever undisputed TNT champion was Sammy Guevara after he beat the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes in one of the best AEW ladder matches I ever saw. But other than that, I will talk more about this specifically in another video. I'm going to do that right now. I hope y'all enjoyed this one because it will be a long one and it will be a long upload and you'll have to wait a long time. Just saying.